Okay, so we're going to play around with the same technique, the same kind of techniques that we did with dart manipulation, but this time we're going to do it to add fullness. So this is taking something that is a straight silhouette normally, and it's making it more flared and fuller at the bottom. And we do that using a cut and spread technique that's really similar to manipulating darts. So sometimes these dresses are called A-line, sometimes they're called trapeze dresses, but it's because instead of them being a body which goes straight down, lovely arms, instead it flares out at the bottom and is full. And so we need to take the bottom of our skirt and make it wider so that it's going to be more full. If we just add a triangle on the end like that, it will just add fullness at the side, and so the front will still hang really straight, and we'll just have these kind of triangles stuck on the side of our body. We want to add fullness all the way across so that it's gently gathered all the way around. Okay, so A-line. Okay, so the first thing we need to do is get rid of this dart because there isn't one there. It's just something that's a loose shape that fits over the body. So we need to move it somewhere. The best place to move it is down to the bottom because that's where we're going to put the fullness anyway, so it doesn't matter if there's a bit extra. If we move it to the side, we've still got a dart there and we don't want one. So let's move it where we can hide it. So use your ruler, draw a line to the bottom of the body and cut down. And closing that dart at the top and sticking it down. Okay, so we moved it to the waist just like when we did the waist dart. We now need to draw a line underneath the armhole so that that's going to stay fitted at the top, and we're only going to add fullness at the bottom because we still want it to be fitted around here. We don't want fullness right from the top because it'll just be like a massive tent. We want it to be fitted at the bust and just flared at the bottom. Okay, so we need to draw a line going across the body so that we're cutting it in two. So where I've not got any dart at all, that can all stay close together and be the same size that it is. At the bottom, we're going to make it fuller. So, depending on how full you want to make it, there are different rules and measurements that you can do. So you might want to make it twice as wide, or you might only want to have a bit of fullness in. And so there's not a set guide for how wide we make this, it's based on your design. So we're just going to do the technique and see how it works. So sometimes you'll divide it into 4 sections. So I've got one here where I've divided it into 4. You might just decide to leave that all as one and just divide up the side so that it's slightly smaller fullness. Doesn't really matter. So I'm going to leave that all as one piece and call that number 1. And I'm going to split this into 2. So you need to measure with the proper side of your ruler how wide it is. So mine's just under 3 centimetres. So I'm going to call it 3 centimetres. So I'm going to divide it by 2. So that's 1.5. Same at the top. And then join my line together. So I'm going to call that number 2 and number 3 so that I know which order they go in. I'm also going to call them a T and a B at the top. So T stands for top and B stands for bottom, because when I've cut these out in a minute, the top and the bottom will look exactly the same and you won't remember which way around it went. So we label it so that we know. So a T on the top and a B on the bottom. And now we're going to cut all of the lines to separate out the pieces. So we've got our top still, we've got our number 1 piece, our number 2 and our number 3. Okay. So for this one, we need to work on a blank sheet of paper. So we need to take the bodice at the top, I keep getting glue on my hands. The bodice at the top, stay how it is, so we can stick that one down. Piece number 1 needs to stay straight in the middle because we need to still be able to fold it in half on the calico. You haven't done that yet, we're going to do it in college next week, but it'll make sense when we do it. This has to be a straight line, it can't be out at an angle or tilting in at an angle. So glue down piece number 1, make sure it's in line with your bodice. Then piece number 2, we need to start angling. And when we start angling the pieces, we need to keep the top at the same point that it started. It's the bottom that we angle, so we're creating these little triangular wedges in the fabric. So stick down piece number 2 and just eyeball a distance. So maybe like half of the size of your piece. So I'm adding in half the amount of the width of that. Piece number 3 needs to be the same. And don't worry if the bottom looks a bit raggedy now, because we'll smooth it out in a minute. So make sure that the top point is lined up where it should be. It doesn't matter if this moves up a bit, because it matters that these points are all still the same size. So they're all going to fit onto the top of the body. So I've got my pieces stuck down. I've got a bit of a wedgy bit going on here, and these don't line up. So to make the hem line up, we need to draw a smooth curve that joins them all together. And to make this line up, we need to have it the same size as the armhole, so that's the line that we use. So I need to join this dot here with this dot here. So use your ruler to join your dots. Might help if you do it in a different colour, and then you can see all of your final lines. So we just get rid of anything that isn't our final line, and we trace around the whole of this with a piece of pattern cutting paper on top to get rid of all of the messy marks in the middle, and we just have a pattern piece that was equally wider all the way along the bottom. So this one is called Adding Fullness, and we need to make sure that we've spread it out in a kind of equal distance.